Lecture of sixth module in number theory. Today we are going to study about certain non-linear Diophantine equations. Diophantine equations we have already seen in the first module. So let us see once again what are Diophantine equations. Any equation in one or more unknowns that is to be solved in the integers is called a Diophantine equation. And these equations were found by Diophantus. So they were named after the mathematician. So simplest type of Diophantine equations are linear Diophantine equations in two unknowns like this. We have written here ax plus by is equal to c. So this is simplest linear Diophantine equation in two variables x and y. For example, this Diophantine equation 3x plus 6y is equal to 18. So this particular Diophantine equation has three solutions. 3 into 4 plus 6 into 1 is equal to 18. That means x is equal to 4 and 6 is equal to 1. They satisfy this equation. Similarly, x is equal to minus 6 and y is equal to 6. This is also satisfying this Diophantine equation. And finally, when we take x is equal to 10 and y is equal to minus 2, then also this equation is being satisfied. So such equation may exist when we have more than one solution. And this Diophantine equation 2x plus 10y is equal to 17, it has no solution. As you can see in the left hand side, if I take any value of any integer value of x and y, then in the left hand side we will always get an even integer, but on the right hand side it's an odd integer. So this has no solution. We have already seen how to solve Diophantine equations and under what conditions a Diophantine equation is solvable. So let us come to non-linear Diophantine equations now. We already know about this equation x square plus y is equal to x square plus y square is equal to z square. As you can remember that we study such equation when we were studying Pythagoras theorem in school. So according to Pythagoras theorem, if you have a right triangle, then square of the hypotenuse is equal to square of the base plus square of the perpendicular. So this is like that. So Fermat, who is known as the father of modern number theory, used to write his short notes in the margin of his notebook, which later got published as Bashir's translation of Diophantus Arithmetica. So the book which got published, it was named as Diophantus Arithmetica, and presumably it was written in 1637. And the most famous of these statements was Fermat used to write the statements of the theorems and the results in the margins of his notebook, which later got published as Diophantus equation. Out of those statements, this is the most famous statements, and it goes like this: it is impossible to write a cube as a sum of two cubes, a fourth power as a sum of two fourth powers, and in general any power beyond the second as a sum of two similar powers. For this, I have discovered a very wonderful proof, but the margin is too small to contain that. So this was written by Fermat in his notebook, that we cannot solve an equation if an equation of this type if we replace 2 by 3, 4 and so on in all these variables x, y and z. So let us see once again. It is impossible to write a cube as a sum of two cubes. Like we cannot write z cube is equal to x cube plus y cube, or z to the power 4 is equal to x to the power 4 plus y to the power 4, and so on. So it is impossible to write cube as a sum of two cubes, a fourth power as a sum of two fourth powers, and in general any power beyond the second as a sum of two similar powers. So he gave this statement, but he did not give any proof of this statement. So Fermat wanted to say that for any n greater than 2, the Diophantine equation x to the power n plus y to the power n is equal to z to the power n has no solution in the integers other than the trivial solution in which at least one of the variables is 0. And the quotation which we have already just seen in the previous slide, it is known as Fermat's last theorem. This statement is known as Fermat's last theorem or Fermat's conjecture. By the 1800s, all the statements and results given by Fermat were either proved or refuted, except this statement, and that is why it is known as Fermat's last theorem. Perhaps Verma himself might have seen the flaws in his proof of this theorem, and so there is no reference of proof of this result in any of his communication to his friends. He used to write his results and proofs to his friends. He used to communicate like that, but there is no reference of proof of this last theorem in any of the communication. So, but Fermat had given the proof in the case when n is equal to 4. So, as I told you that this is Pythagoras equation, x square plus y square is equal to z square, and Pythagoras gave solution of such equation. Let us see what did he give. So first let's identify all the solutions in the positive integers of this equation. So let us find all the solution in positive integers. Suppose this is 1. Since we know that the length z of the hypotenuse of a right triangle is related by this. This is the well-known result, Pythagorean equation. So, this is hypotenuse and these are the other two sides. Thus, finding all the solutions of this equation 1 in the positive integers is equivalent to finding of all the right triangles with sides of integral length. So, if we find all the right triangles of integral length, then we are done and all the solutions of this equation 1 are found. So this problem was raised in the days of Babylonians and was a favorite with the ancient Greek geometers. Pythagoras has been credited with a formula for infinitely many such triangles. He gave this general value of x, y, and z. So if we substitute values of n, then we get infinitely many such triangles. So x is 2n plus 1, y is equal to 2n square plus 2n, and z is equal to 2n square plus 2n plus 1, where n is an arbitrary positive integer. But this formula does not count all the right triangles with the integral sides. And it was not until Euclid wrote his elements that a complete solution to the problem appeared. So people thought that this particular formula gives all the solutions to that Pythagorean equation, but it was not like that until Euclid wrote his book Elements, and in that he got the complete proof of the problem. So let us see what are Pythagorean triples. So in general, we can understand like this: any triplet x, y, z which satisfy this Pythagorean equation are called Pythagorean triple. So let us see this definition. A Pythagorean triple is a set of three integers x, y, z such that x square plus y square is equal to z square. The triple is said to be primitive if GCD of x, y, z is 1. That means if these three numbers x, y, z, these three integers are relatively prime to each other, then such a triple is called primitive Pythagorean triple. So Pythagorean triples have been known since ancient times. The oldest known record comes from Plimpton 322, a Babylonian clay tablet from about 1800 BC, written in a sexagesimal number system. A sexagesimal is a number system with 60 as its base, and it is originated with the ancient Sumerians in the 3rd millennium BC, was passed down to the ancient Babylonians and is still used in a modified form for measuring time, angles, and geographic coordinates. When searching for integer solutions of this equation, a square plus b square is equal to c square is a Diophantine equation. Thus, Pythagorean triples are among the oldest known solutions of nonlinear Diophantine equations. So when Pythagoras gave all the solutions of such equations, then that we have just seen, but Diophantine equations came later than that. So we can say that Pythagorean triples are among the oldest known solutions of nonlinear Diophantine equations. The best known example of primitive Pythagorean triples are this 3, 4, 5 and 5, 12, 13, whereas a less obvious one is 12, 35, 37. So these are Pythagorean triples. Note that any Pythagorean triple can be obtained from a primitive triple. So what are primitive Pythagorean triple? Where x, y, z, these three numbers are relatively prime. So we are saying that any Pythagorean triple can be obtained from a primitive triple upon multiplying by a suitable non-zero integer. Suppose that xyz is any Pythagorean triple. This forms any Pythagorean triple, and let d is the GCD of these three integers. Then we can write x as dx1, y as dy1, and z as 3z1 for some x1, y1, z1. So from here we can write x1 as x upon d, y1 as y upon d, and z1 as z upon d. So what does this imply? This implies that x1 square plus y1 square will be x square upon d square plus y square upon d square, and that can be written as x square plus y square upon d square. And this numerator x square plus y square is z square, so this is equal to z square upon d square, and z upon d is z1, so this is equal to z1 square, with GCD of x1 and y1 and z1 as 1. So in short, we can say that x1, y1, z1 form a primitive Pythagorean triple. Thus, it would be enough for us to find primitive Pythagorean triples, as Pythagorean triple can be obtained from a primitive once we multiply it with a suitable non-zero integer. So we are going to see primitive Pythagorean triples. The search may be confined to those primitive Pythagorean triples x, y, z in which x, y, z these all are positive, in as much as all others arise from the positive ones through a simple change of sign. So we are going to see when x, y, z these all are greater than 0. Let us see this result, this lemma 1. If x, y, z is a primitive Pythagorean triple, then one of the integers x or y is even while the other is odd. Let's prove this lemma. So we have to show that one of the integers x or y is even and the other is odd. So let if possible x and y both are even. So that implies 2 divides x square plus y square, or 2 divides z square, because x square plus y square is equal to z square. So 2 divides z square, so that 2 divides z also. So this implies that GCD of x, y and z is greater than equal to 2, which is a contradiction. So this was the case when we suppose that x and y both are even. On the other hand, suppose that if both are odd, then x square is congruent to 1 modulo 4 and y square is congruent to 1 modulo 4, and this implies that z square is equal to x square plus y square is congruent to 1 plus 1, that is 2 modulo 4, which is impossible because the square of any integer must be congruent either to 0 or to 1 modulo 4. So this we have proved that these, if xyz is a primitive Pythagorean triple, then one of the integer x or y, this has to be even and other has to be odd. This lemma indicates that the even integer is either x or y. To be definite, we shall hereafter write our Pythagorean triple so that x is even and y is odd. Then of course z is odd. Notice that each pair of x, y and z must be relatively prime. There exists no primitive Pythagorean triple x, y, z, all of whose values are prime numbers. So these are the points to be noted. Let us see this another result, lemma 2. If AB is equal to nth power of C, where GCD of AB is 1, then A and B are nth powers, that is, there exists positive integers a1 and b1 for which A is equal to a1 to the power n and b is equal to b1 to the power n. So let's prove this lemma. Let A and B both are greater than 1. Then we can write A as the product of primes, product of powers of primes. So suppose A is equal to P1 to the power K1, P2 to the power K2 and PR to the power KR. Similarly, B can be written as Q1 to the power J1, Q2 to the power J2 and so on up to Qs to the power Js. So these are the prime factorizations of A and B. Then no Pi can occur in Qi. From here, so no Pi can occur in these QIs. Why? Because A and B are relatively prime. Therefore, the prime factorization of AB will be the product of these two things. So P1 to the power K1 and so on up to PR to the power KR into Q1 to the power J1 and so on, QS to the power JS. So this is AB. Suppose that C can be factored into primes as C is equal to U1 to the power L1, U2 to the power L2 and so on up to UT to the power LT. Then the condition AB is equal to C to the power n implies that this A into B is this. So this is equal to U1 to the power n L1, U2 to the power n L2 and so on, UT to the power n LT. So this is equal to this. So from this we can see that the primes U1, U2, UT are P1, P2, PR, Q1, Q2, QS in some order, and NL1, NL2, NLT, they are the corresponding exponents K1, K2, KR, J1, J2, JS. So this implies that each of the integers Ki and Ji must be divisible by n, because we are saying that these powers are K1, K2, KR, J1, J2, JS, and here they are all, these all powers are multiples of n. So from here, each of the integers ki and ji must be divisible by n. So if now we put a1 as p1 to the power k1 upon n, p2 to the power k2 upon n, pr to the power kr upon n, and b1 as q1 to the power j1 upon n, q2 to the power j2 upon n, and so on, qs to the power js upon n. Then we get a1 to the power n is equal to a, and b1 to the power n is equal to b. So we have proved that AB is equal to C to the power n. So we have given values of A and B as A1 to the power n and B1 to the power. So we have proved this lemma 2 also. Now let us characterize all the primitive Pythagorean triples by this result. So in proving this result, we shall be using lemma 1 and lemma 2. So this result goes like this. All the solutions of the Pythagorean equation x square plus y square is equal to z square, satisfying the conditions GCD xyz is equal to 1, 2 divides x, and xyz all are positive, are given by the formulas. What we are saying all the solutions of this Pythagorean equation with these conditions are given by x is equal to 2st, y is equal to s square minus t square, and z is equal to s square plus t square. You can notice here that this is different from what Pythagoras gave. So this is the this gives all the solutions. This is the characterization for the primitive Pythagorean triples. So for integers here, s and t both are greater than 0, such that GCD of s and t is 1, and s is not congruent to t modulo 2. So let's see the proof. Let x, y, z all are greater than 0 be primitive Pythagorean triple. Then since x is even, because we have already decided that we are going to take x even and y odd. So since x is even, so y and z both are odd. So z minus y and z plus y, they are even numbers. If you subtract two odd numbers and add two odd numbers, then you are going to get even integers. So z minus y and z plus y are even integers. So let z minus y is given by 2 into u and z plus y is given by 2 into v. Then x square plus y square is z square. This implies that x square is equal to z square minus y square, and this can be written as z minus y into z plus y. So z minus y is 2u and z plus y is 2v. So this is equal to 2u into 2v, that is 4ub. So x square plus y square is 4ub. Whence x upon 2 whole square will be uv. And notice that GCD of u and v is 1. Why this is 1? Since if GCD of uv, suppose GCD of uv is d, which is greater than 1, then d divides u minus v and d divides u plus v as well. Since this implies that d divides y and d divides z, and this implies that GCD of y and z, this is not equal to 1, which is a contradiction, and hence GCD of uv should be 1. Now by lemma 2, we may conclude that u and v are each perfect squares. Let u is equal to t square and v is equal to s square, where s and t are positive integers. Now substitute these values, we get z is equal to v plus u is equal to s square plus t square, and y is equal to v minus u is equal to s square minus t square. And x square is 4uv, that is 4s square t square, and this implies that x is 2st. Because a common factor of s and t divides both y and z, the condition GCD yz is equal to 1 forces us to imply GCD of s and t is equal to 1. So s and t, they are relatively prime. Now we need to show that S is not congruent to T modulo 2. So we can see that if both S and T are odd or both are even, then both Y and Z would be odd or even, which is impossible. Therefore, S is not congruent to T modulo 2. Conversely, let S and T be two integers with the given conditions. Now we are proving converse. Suppose that S and T are two integers with these given conditions, which is x is equal to 2st, y is equal to s square minus t square, and z is equal to s square plus t square. So x square plus y square is equal to 2st whole square plus s square minus t square whole square. So this can be written as s square plus t square whole square. And what is s square plus t square? That is your z. So this is equal to z square. Now to check GCD of x, y, z is equal to 1. Let, if possible, the GCD of these three x, y, z is d, which is greater than 1. Let p be any prime divisor of d. Observe that p is not equal to 2 since x is even and y and z both are odd, and p cannot divide y and z then. So p is not equal to 2. Now p divides y and p divides z. This implies that p divides z plus y and p divides z minus y, or we can say p divides 2s square and p divides 2t square. This implies that p divides s and p divides t, which is impossible since s and t are relatively prime, and hence d is equal to 1. So we have seen this result where we have characterized all the primitive Pythagorean triples. So if we have to find primitive Pythagorean triples, then these conditions should be satisfied. X is equal to 2st, y is equal to s square minus t square, and z is equal to s square plus t square, where s and t are relatively prime and s and t they are incongruent modulo 2. Let's go further. So this is a table where some of the primitive Pythagorean triples are given with the value of s and t and value of x, y, z. From the table, it is visible that if x, y, z is a primitive Pythagorean triple, then exactly one of the integer x or y is divisible by 3. So you can see that if x, y, z they are primitive Pythagorean triple, then at least one of the values of s or t that is divisible by 3. Actually, this is from the previous theorem that we have proved, where we gave the values of x, y, and z in terms of s and t. So here s and t are relatively prime. So if either 3 divides s or 3 divides t, then 3 divides x also, because x is equal to 2st. But if 3 does not divide s and t both, then by Fermat's theorem, s square is congruent to 1 modulo 3 and t square is congruent to 1 modulo 3. You can see that Fermat's theorem says that if p is a prime and p does not divide a, then a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo p. So here, so we are saying 3 does not divide s and t. So if we take 3 does not divide s, then s to the power 3 minus 1, that is s square is congruent to 1 modulo 3, and similarly t square is congruent to 1 modulo 3 by Fermat's theorem. And so y is equal to s square minus t square, which is congruent to 0 modulo 3. Or we can say that y is divisible by 3. Let's see this result. Here we are going to prove that the radius of the inscribed circle of a Pythagorean triangle is always an integer. That means you have a right triangle and a circle inscribed in that right triangle, then the radius of that circle is always an integer. So let's see this triangle. This is a right triangle. This is height is x, base is y, and hypotenuse is z. So we have made this circle in the right triangle, and so just divide this in 3 parts. So this triangle, yellow one, this is triangle 1. This second one is this orange one is triangle 2, and this green one is triangle 3. So let R be the radius of the circle inscribed in the right triangle. So this circle has radius R, and Z is equal to length of the hypotenuse, and X and Y are the length of the other two sides. Then area of this triangle will be area of the this triangle plus area of second triangle and area of the third triangle. So if we add all these areas, these three areas, then we get area of the right triangle. So therefore, so what is area of a right triangle? That is half into base into height. So half xy will be equal to half rz plus half ry plus half rx. So you can see from here. So if you take this triangle, then this is your base and the height is r. In here, base is z and height is r. And in this, base is x and height is z. So we have written this. So if we take half r common here, then 1 by 2 r within bracket x plus y plus z, and this is equal. This implies that half can be cancelled on both the sides, and then we get x y is equal to r x plus y plus z. So we get this. Now by Pythagoras theorem, we know that x square plus y square is equal to z square. But we know that the positive integral solutions of this equation are given by this. So we have just proved in the previous theorem. So x is equal to 2k st, y is equal to k s square minus t square, and z is equal to k s square plus t square for an appropriate choice of k. Because we are not talking about primitive Pythagorean triples here. We are taking general x, y, z. So we are just multiplying these by k for appropriate choice of k, s and t. So substituting these values of x, y, z, we get x, y is equal to r. In this, we get r is equal to 2k square st into s square minus t square upon k 2st plus s square minus t square plus s square plus t square. Then t square can be cancelled here. And then we get kt s square minus t square upon s plus t. So it will be kt s minus t, which is an integer. Let's see this question. Here we have to find three different Pythagorean triples, not necessarily primitive, of the form 16yz. So here 16yz are not necessarily prime, and by Pythagoras theorem 16 square plus y square is equal to z square. So this implies that 16 square is equal to z square minus y square, and this implies that z minus y into z plus y will be 256. 16 square is 256. So 256 we can write as 64 into 4. So by setting z plus y as 64 and z minus y as 4, we get 2z is equal to 68. This implies that we solve these two equations, then we get 2z 68, then z is equal to 34, and so y is z minus 4, that means 34 minus 4, that is 30. So z is 34 and y is 30. By setting z plus y is equal to 32 and z minus y is equal to 8, we get y is equal to 12 and z is equal to 20. And by setting z plus y is equal to 128 and z minus y is equal to 2. So what we are doing, we are just taking different factors of 256. First we have taken 64 into 4, then 32 into 8, and then this 128 into 2. So by setting z plus y is equal to 128 and z minus y is equal to 2, then we get y is equal to 63 and z is equal to 64. So considering all these three factorization of 256, we get these three Pythagorean triples: 16, 30, 34, 16, 12, 20, and 16, 63, 60. Let's see another question. Here we have to prove that in a primitive Pythagorean triple x, y, z, the product x, y is divisible by 12 and hence 60 divides x, y, z. So let's see the solution. For Pythagorean triplet, we have x square plus y square is equal to z square. And for primitive Pythagorean triple, GCD of x, y, z should be 1. So this we have proved that x is equal to 2st, y is equal to s square minus t square, and z is equal to s square plus t square. So this x is even and y, z both are odd. And s and t are relatively prime, and s and t they are incongruent modulo 2. This we have already seen. So from here this we get z is congruent to 1 modulo 4. Therefore 1 of x square or y square is divisible by 4 and other is congruent to 1 modulo 4. So y is equal to s square minus t square is odd. Therefore 1 of x square and t square is even and the other is odd. Therefore we can say that x is equal to 2st has a factor of 4. Therefore 4 divides xy. Squares can be congruent to 0 or 1 modulo 3, and in primitive triplets, z is not divisible by 3 because 3 is not a valid choice. Therefore, z square is congruent to 0 modulo 3 is not possible. This implies that z square is congruent to 1 modulo 3. And therefore, 1 of x or y is divisible by 3, and this implies that 12 divides xy. Now we need to show that 60 divides xyz. For that, either z is equal to 5 or z is not equal to 5. Let's see first case when z is equal to 5. Since 12 divides xy, therefore 60 divides xyz. So we are done. Case 2, z is not equal to 5. Therefore z square is congruent to 0 or 1 or 4 modulo 5. So if z is congruent to 1, 4 modulo 5, then z square is congruent to 1 modulo 5. In both the cases 1 and 4, z square will be congruent to 1 modulo 5. Therefore 1 of x square or y square must be divisible by 5. And if z is congruent to 2, 3 modulo 5, then z square will be 4 modulo 5. Therefore 1 of x square or y square must be divisible by 5. So in both the cases 60 divides x. So we are done. Now let's see this. Here we are going to see how to find Pythagorean triples. So there is a little trick in when we have to find Pythagorean triples without any long calculation. So let us see. In Pythagorean triple x, y, z, z is always odd, and out of x and y, one is odd and other is even. This we know. And 3, 4, 5, 8, 15, 17, 5, 12, 13 are Pythagorean triples. Now trick to find Pythagorean triples. When we are discussing the case when x is an odd integer. So let us see some examples. If we take x is equal to 5, then what we have to do, the steps we need to follow are as. So first find the square of x. So x square will be 5 square, that is 25. Then divide it by 2. So 25 by 2 is 12.5. Then take y is equal to 12 and z is equal to 13. So 5, 12, 13 is a Pythagorean triple, and you can verify this. So let us see once again what we have done. X is 5, then find its square, divided by 2, which is 12.5. Then y will be 12 and z will be 13. Let us consider another case. Let x is 7. Find its square, that is 49, divided by 2. 49 by 2, that is 24.5. So y is 24 and z is 25. So you can verify that 7, 24, 25, this is a Pythagorean triple. Consider this case also. X is to 11, find its square, that is 121, divided by 2, 121 by 2, that is 60 into 5, 60.5. So y will be 60 and z will be 61. So 7, 60, 61 will be Pythagorean triple. Now when x is even, so just now we are considering x odd, but now x is even. Then how to find Pythagorean triple? Then this method will not work. We have to do a little different. So let's see. If I take x is equal to 8, then first divide x by 2. Then 8 by 2 will be 4. Then find its square. So in this case, what we were doing, first we were finding square and then we were dividing by 2. But here what we are doing when x is even, first we are dividing x by 2 and then finding a square. So 8 by 2 is 4. Then find the square of 4, that is 16. Then take y and z as 1 less and 1 more than the value of x. So take y is equal to 16 minus 1, that is 15, and z is equal to 16 plus 1, that is 17. So 8, 15 and 17. This is the Pythagorean triple. Consider the second example. If x is 12, divide x by 12, we get 6. Find its square, we get 36. Take y as 1 less and 1 more, that is 36 minus 1 will be y and 36 plus 1 will be z. So 12, 35, 37, this is a Pythagorean triple. So by using the trick given here, we can give at least one Pythagorean triple for a given value of x. Let us see a few more important results. So this is given by formula. First one, the Diophantine equation x to the power 4 plus y to the power 4 is equal to z square has no solution in positive integers x, y, z. and this is the corollary to this result. The equation x to the power 4 plus y to the power 4 is equal to z to the power 4 has no solution in positive integers. Another result given by Fermat, the Diophantine equation x to the power 4 minus y to the power 4 is equal to z square has no solution in positive integers x, y, z. Finally, the area of a Pythagorean triple can never be equal to a perfect integral square. So we are done with today's lecture. Let us see what we have seen in this lecture. So first of all, we have studied Fermat's last theorem. So we have given the what was Fermat's last theorem. There is no proof to that theorem, but we have just characterized the Pythagorean triples. First, we saw the definition of Pythagorean triples. Then we gave the formula which was given by Pythagoras, and then the characterization of Pythagorean triples, which is different from the formula given by Pythagoras. So then finally we saw the trick how to find Pythagorean triples when x is even, and in another case when x was odd. So this is all about this lecture. These are the references which we have used in this lecture. Thank you.